Hey everybody, Michael Campbell here, family pastor here at Grace Church. Just wanted to go over this Sunday's lesson that applies to the children, how it applies to us, and how we can just put it into our lives. And so we're going through 2 Chronicles 36, where God's people were taken captive. And so throughout this chapter, it's easy to see that God is the one who raises up and removes kings and rulers and all who are in authority. But this reality can sometimes shake us in profound ways, and it may cause us to ask why. So this question is a fair question, considering that we often see rulers who don't love God and they're making decisions that display their lack of belief in Him. And it's hard to imagine that God is the one who placed them there in leadership. And so why would God allow bad leaders in the first place to be in charge? And that's a tough question, but Scripture speaks to it in several ways. For one, in Romans chapter 13, 1 and 2, it reminds us to submit to those in authority, and since they are instituted by God Himself. Therefore, to resist the authority is to actually oppose the commands of God, so long as the authority doesn't demand disobedience directly to Him, to God. So another place that we see this principle was played out in Scripture through the person of Daniel. So we find Daniel rebelling against the king's demand to worship something other than God. But we also find Daniel willingly subjecting himself to be the king's leadership in other circumstances that don't demand his disobedience. And so further, we find Daniel actually praying to God and confessing that he is the one who changes about the rise and fall of leaders. It's God who does it. So chapter 2, verse 21 says, He changes the times and season. He removes kings, establishes kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. And the Bible teaches us that God stands sovereign and in control over all things, even with the rise and fall of leaders. And that includes the most godly leaders and even those who are most opposed to the things of God. And the Lord, in His good purposes, may be seeking to wake us up and bring consequence or refine His people, but His purposes are ultimately and always good. And God is working in all times and season. And though we may wonder about His purposes in certain circumstances, we can trust that they are always ultimately for His glory and for our good, even when it's hard to understand or hard to believe. So that's the message we're going to be going through. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. You'll notice on the rest of this thread some questions, memory verse, and discussion points to have with your children and family. But until next time, God bless, take care, and happy Thanksgiving.